Not to mention, as an aside, it is also well documented that the more income inequality that exists, the more crime, assault, robbery, murder are probable. Not the more poverty and deprivation that causes this, the more inequality. Does everyone understand that? It's a very interesting point. This is easy to exemplify for the United States, which has the largest income gap on the planet, also has the largest crime rate in the world, the largest prison population in the world, and amusingly, we're also the most aggressive and armed nation in the world. Go figure. The bottom line is that when it comes to the comparison of hierarchy to egalitarianism, in other words, people being equal or people being stratified, social stratification, regardless of it, within the comparison, egalitarianism or equality when it comes to psychologically stress-driven health trumps stratification for the whole of society from crime to disease rates. So in conclusion to this section, I hope I've made this relatively clear because it's a really important point when you think about it. Not only are social classes modern inventions of human society, social classes are scientifically proven to be detrimental to the health of everybody by the very construct of its creation. I think it's much more complex than that. Let me finish the presentation and I'll answer your question. I think in conclusion of this formal presentation that is one of the most incredibly compelling motivations to seek alternatives. The very fabric of the larger order of society is intrinsically and provably unhealthy. And coupled with everything else that we've talked about, I think that adds a tremendous weight to moving forward into something new. And this concludes the formal presentation of this program. And what I'm going to do now, is have the Q&A with you. And we're going to do this by topic. So what I'm going to do is attempt to actually, no, I don't think we even, well, the microphones are relevant to the web stream, so yeah, I'm going to turn the lights on for you. All right. So who's got the first question with the microphone? Hopefully this will be fairly easy to do. Hi.
As I see it in past, transitions always happened after some chaos. Mm. So do we first need some chaos?
Good question. I think in many ways we already have chaos. There's only two attributes to the transition. Attributes to the transition that I think, two levels the transition can work best on what I can tell. The first is having a step-by-step, and I'm going to answer your question in the pattern of this. The first is a step-by-step transition where you say, okay, government recognizes the ability of technology and it decides to create abundance, but it doesn't step-by-step to transition the society out of where it is today. So you have, say, the work week slowly broken down to 4 days, 6 hours a day, and you have this nice, beautiful step-by-step progression. Slowly, certain industries are strategically pegged, so automation is applied, and everyone is slowly, all the wages, of course, are raised. So you work 2 days a week eventually, but your wage is still the same. Now, there's still lots of problems in that inherently because you're still dealing with the market system, but it could happen that way. I seriously doubt it will because, as we've denoted, the market system is based on the capitalization. So invariably, the corporations would have to give in and want to slowly give away their value for that to work. And I find that to be a very difficult transition, and I'm going to talk about that more in the new film to show how that could happen and also show why it most likely will not. But in regards to the chaos, all things seem to come out of problems. It seems that most of the dramatic social shifts that we've ever had in society come out of some type of revolution or some huge issue, some type of collapse. And I really hope that things don't get that far, get that bad, where the greed of the mechanics of the system generates so much poverty in so much technological unemployment to the effect where you eventually have a serf type of environment with extremely small middle class that runs the machines, the extremely wealthy, dominant government corporation elite, and then the serfs that basically will end up having to be given some type of welfare in order for their survival. And that is a natural gravitation of the system in one way. I'm not saying that's what's exactly going to happen, but I really don't know. I think it's going to be a combination of the two. You're going to have social breakdown, people realizing what's possible. As far as I'm concerned, if you realize what's possible and you explain to people and present the possibilities here, I explain the problem. If you realize the problems first, and then you reflect on the possibilities that hopefully we can talk about more in regards to the Venus Project and all the attributes of the resource-based economy, just that intellectual realization should be enough to move people out of their current static value systems and current misinterpretations about what's actually possible. So we'll see. But I do believe it's very motivating to have problems. So I don't encourage suffering, but that's just the sad paradox of it all. Change has to have a reason. It's a biosocial pressure. I learned that word from Jacques Fresco. People don't rationally usually do things. They have to be pushed by the dynamics of their environment, biologically and socially, and that's how new emergences come about. So if you were to ask Jacques that question, he would tell you that the system has to fail. And I think invariably, if the movement gets large enough, I would force the system to fail if I had to. But I'm not going to go into that because that's a very difficult thing to say. Well, hold on. We're going to do this very systematically, so I'm not going to take anybody's questions that are just talked out. So there's a microphone that are being pushed around.
I have a small comment. I own 2 companies, and I employ about 50 people. And I wouldn't mind turning this over to the Zeitgeist movement instantly, if that's a possibility. Now, I cannot do that because we would go broke in 2 months.
Of course.
But just so you know that some of us do support this.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I know.
Number 2, why don't we, in Europe, we have a number of countries, why don't we start political parties to speak for this idea? If we did it simultaneously in Norway, Sweden, Denmark, Belgium, Germany, and they all call the same thing, that would cause some publicity. Why not political parties?
I actually agree with that. There was an organization called Technocracy, which takes a lot of the ideas that Jacques used to be a part of an organization called Technocracy, and they are a political party. They're still in existence. I don't push that away, but the mechanics of politics is such that if you have a political party that's advocating something that's absolutely counter to everything that every other political establishment has been pushing forward, I really wouldn't consider that a political party. What I would say, to me, in my mind, the best thing is a mass awareness and global lobby, if you will, where you have enough power in grassroots organizations, as, for example, Martin Luther King. He started out doing small protests. Eventually, he was sitting in the White House with Lyndon Johnson. He was directly involved in the civil rights movement on a profound level. He worked his way there because what he was promoting made social sense. And I think that same type of pattern can happen with this. Eventually, I would love to see Jacques talk to very high-end leaders and to express this. I'd love to talk to politicians, but a political party has certain traps in order to be political. So I agree with you. In theory, if we could start an organization that's enough where people could vote in people that would eventually take the whole voting system down, then yes, I find it difficult to think through all the. But I agree with you. In other words, not political parties, but mass organizations of communication that are powerful enough to influence public decisions. So that's the way I would think about it. I hope that helps.